Shalom, shalom, Israel, shalom. His brother Riot, I want to give all honor and glory to the Most High God, Yahweh, Ba'ashima Mashiach, Malak Yahushua. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that go out there and labor on the highways and byways, making their body living sacrifice in the rain, the tumults, the demons, the uprises, the uproars. They're out there standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty brothers that are not out there as of yet, but they're building themselves up, reading, praying, fasting, being diligent, everything they can do to put themselves in a position to shake the hand, wake up the hopeful elect. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf in this thing that actually sincerely reverence their husbands, being teachers of good things to the children at home, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, loving, steadfast, cooking, sewing, cleaning, doing all of the righteous acts of our foremothers on fire for the Lord. Another strong shalom to all of the mighty Akwaf that are not married as of yet, but they're building themselves up, being quiet, shamefaced, submissive, right? Magnifying the Lord, helping out in the ministry, building up the children, doing everything they could do to magnify Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. Another strong shalom to the elect man out there in the four corners of the earth, striving, reading, praying, and fasting to the children, abstaining from all lust and concupiscence, right? Standing 10 toes down for the name of the Lord. And last but not least, another strong shalom to the whole entire nation that's on fire in the last days, keeping the high holy days, taking care of their families, casting down strongholds, and magnifying the name of the Lord. That it's going to be an in-depth breakdown on the early and the latter rain. So when you go inside of the scriptures, you have an early rain in prophecy and you have a latter rain that's going into a whole lot within exquisite parables and breakdowns and prophecies within themselves. But we're going to break it down through a spirit. Let's go to the book, right? Of Deuteronomy chapter 32. Because the Lord is a husbandman. Let's just put that out in the open. The Lord deals with heavy husbandry in the scriptures. So the scriptures are likened unto what? The elect is likened unto a woman. We're likened unto sheep. We're also likened unto dumb animals like an ox. You understand? And certain things like that. The Most High use similitudes. Now, within these similitudes, the Lord is likened unto a husbandman. Now, what a husbandman does is he takes care of the vineyard. Make sure he roots out all the thorns, the thistles. Make sure that he casts out all of the strange animals. You understand, the foxes, the owls, all the doleful creatures. Make sure he fences it up with a hedge to protect it, that nothing harms it or plucks the precious fruit, and he waters it so that it brings forth an increase. So the Most High is a master husbandman, man. And we learn a lot through the similitude of that in the whole scriptures. It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 32, and verse number 2. And it reads, my doctrine shall drop as the rain. So, doctrine in the scriptures, doctrine is a law, it's a commandment, it's a way of understanding. It could be prophecy, it could be a way of living. A doctrine is somebody's doctrine. Now, the Lord said you in the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, and verse number 2, I give you good doctrine, therefore forsake ye not my law. So that doctrine is going into the law and it's going into prophecy. So when the Lord said he's going to pour down, right, his doctrine, that's multifold. It's the book of Proverbs, chapter 4, and verse, right, number 2. For I give you good doctrine, forsake ye not my law. So the Lord even has to water you for you to even understand the law. There's mysteries in the law. There's allegories in the law. There are chief breakdowns in the law. So the Lord said through the hand of David, lighten mine eyes, man, that I may behold this wonderful things out of thy law. So let's get that in the book of Psalms, chapter 119. Hey, so the law got in-depth breakdowns. The law is a doctrine in itself. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 119, in verse number 18. Open thou mine eyes, that I may behold wonderful things out of thy law. So if the law is plain, if the law is simple, then why do your eyes need to be open? Because there's prophecy in the law. There's breakdowns in the law. There's similitudes in the law. And all of the law is a foundation which builds off of everything else. Just like Yahweh being the foundation built off of the house, you understand Peter, James, John, the 12, and all of the men after that. So let's go back to it. It's the book of Deuteronomy, right? Chapter 32 and verse 2. My doctrine shall drop as the rain. My speech shall distill as the dew, right? As the small rain upon the tender herb. Now, in the beginning, the Lord put his spirit on the earth. When I say his spirit, I'm talking about the words of God, the words of life, the words of prophecy. And just like any desert place or any place without water is dry, it's darkness. Did not the light emerge out of darkness? Wasn't there a dry ground before it yielded forth an herb, before it yielded forth flowers, vineyards, right? Before it yielded forth the things that heal us and the things that give us and bring forth seed, the vegetables. So the Lord said, as the small rain upon the tender herb, and as the showers upon the grass. So you have a tender herb, and then you have grass. Grass is man. Let's go get that precept. Let me get this real fast. Go to the book. Real fast. All right, so I got it open. Let's go to the book of First Peter. It's the book of First Peter, right, chapter 1 and verse 24. And it reads, it says, for all flesh is as grass. So the Lord said, all the man that's living on the earth, he's likened unto grass, and all the glory of man as the flower. So you have a flower, which is a glory of a man. What's the flower? The lily. What is the lily? The elect. So you have all grass, and you can't escape grass. You go to the store, you see grass. Come outside, you see grass. Hey, men are everywhere. Moabites are grass. Everybody's grass. But you have the glory of a man. What's the glory of the man? The fear of God, the fear of the commandments, the understanding of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. That's what makes you a flower. That's what makes you bloom. That's what makes the Lord come down to pluck you as a lily in due season. Of the grass withereth, and the flower thereof it's like it falleth away. So check that out. So grass withereth because grass is man. When you go to the book, right? You get this real fast. Let me go back to it. So when it says as the tender herb and as the showers upon the grass. So let's go to the book, a second Esdras, right? We get this quick precept. Go to second Esdras chapter 7. It's the book of second Esdras chapter 7, and I'm gonna start at 13. Because you had an elder world, you had an ancient world, and then you have the end of days. So right now we will be classified living in the end of the world, the end of days. But the time of David, that was the ancient world. You understand? The time of Isaiah, the time of Jeremiah, the time of Ezekiel, that was the ancient world. And then you have an elder world, the time of Adam, the time of Eve, the time of Seth, the time of Enoch, right? All of these men lived in the elder world. It's the book of Second Esdras, chapter 7 and verse 13. For the entrance of the elder world were wide and sure, and brought immortal fruit. So in the ancient world, so like in the elder world, you had more of a wider path. Now there were prophets in the ancient world, and there were prophets in the elder world. Now, let me get that real fast. Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 1 and verse 70. So when you think about rain and the Most High being a husbandman, and you paint this picture, hey, the Lord created all of the grass upon the earth, innumerable at one time. And then he started to water it. But the early rain, the Lord watered the earth abundantly. He brought forth multiple prophets, multiple elders, multiple disciples, multiple men to increase and bring forth that increase for the early rain. Let's go to the book, right? And let me get that. Salaki. Let's go to the book of I want to get Ezekiel too. All right, Salaki, bear with me. Let me get Luke before that. It's the book of Luke, chapter 1 and verse 70. Going into the ancient prophets that have been from old, from the foundation of the earth. This is the book, Luke, chapter 1, verse 70. It says, as he spake by the multitudes which have been since the world began. So since the world was actually formed and began, Adam wasn't the first man, contrary to popular belief. When the Lord created Adam, he created multiple men named Adam. They were the Adamites. You understand? Man and woman were named Adam. So when he created Adam, you have a chosen Adam springing out of the Adamites. Now, under the Adamites, the chosen Adam, he was given the laws, the statutes, and commandments. For lack of better terms, he was given the water. He was given that understanding to be able to issue out and flow for the early rain. Now let's go get that. Let's go to the book of Ezekiel. All right, this is the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31. Right, and you can start at verse number 3. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31, and verse number 3. And it reads, Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar and Lebanon. Now, a cedar is a strong tree, and Lebanon represents Israel. And an Assyrian represents a man of high stature in the scriptures. When you read the book of Isaiah, right, chapter 10 and verse 5, when you read multiple precepts, like the book of Isaiah, the 14th chapter, Ezekiel, the 31st chapter, the Assyrian is known as a man of high stature, renown. It says, with fair branches, because man is a tree. It says, and with a shadowing shroud, and of a high stature. So if man is a tree set by many waters, he's going to grow up and have a high stature. And that could be applicable for man today, man. When you look at yourself, are you a willow tree? Are you a palm tree? Are you a cedar tree? Are you a fig tree? Are you a pomegranate tree? Or are you a low, dusty, trashy tree that's pilling over in the last days, man? You're bringing forth no fruit. Your leaves are withering. You have no understanding. The bark is falling off. Animals just use you and just use the bathroom and step off, man. You haven't got rained on and God knows how long. Lightning just keeps striking and hitting all of the branches off. The sun is scorching you. You got to ask yourself, what kind of tree are you? It says, and his tops was among the thick boughs. Now, branches could represent the different tribes of a man, you understand, of his nation, or could represent a high stature of a man in the kingdom, whether it be a prince, whether it be a king, right? So being a tree, you could be as symbolic as a nation or a man, and the branches could be your children, right? Let me get that real fast. Let's go to the book of Wisdom of Solomon. Let me get that real fast. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon, the 4th chapter. So the Lord likens the whole scriptures to husbandry, man. The whole scriptures to trees. The whole scriptures to water. Because literally the whole Bible is about bringing forth an increase. You have to be about bringing forth an increase every single day. This is the book, right, of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 4 and verse number 3. But the multiplying broad of the ungodly shall not thrive, nor take deep rooting from bastard slips. So the Lord said, if you're ungodly and you're multiplying abroad, you're not going to take deep rooting. Didn't Paul say be rooted and grounded and built up in the truth in the book of Colossians, the 2nd chapter, verse 7 all the way down? Nor lay any fast foundation. For though they flourish in branches for a time, meaning the children, meaning that man, though he brings forth a lot of seed after him, and that may be Donald Trump, that may be Alexander the Freak, that could be Nero, that could be these demonic nations. Yeah, they may be rooted and established in a kingdom, just like Nebuchadnezzar. Wasn't he likened it to a tree? And did not the Lord chop him down in the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter? So though you may have branches, you may spurl off, you may grow, you may bring forth seed on the earth, yet not standing, Salakia, yet standing not last. They shall be shaken with the wind, and through the force of the winds they shall be rooted out. The impractical branches, right, the imperfect branches shall be broken off. Their fruit unprofitable, meaning their works, not ripe to eat, because the Lord wants a harvest. If you're going to be brought forth with the abundance of fruit for a sacrifice, if you're a priest, you will bring all of the fruits to the storehouse. In the storehouse, you understand, you will bring it before the Lord. It says, yeah, meat for nothing. So you don't want to be meat for nothing. You don't want to be a tree with imperfect branches. You don't want to be a man of no understanding. You don't want to be a nation of no understanding, man. So Adam was a man of renown, of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And the Lord blew the breath of life into Adam in the elder world. Let's get that in the book of Genesis. So from the foundation, the Lord was dealing with what? The waters, dealing with the trees. Right? Let me get this quick precept too. In the book of Daniel, the 4th chapter, going into Nebuchadnezzar. That's why you can't be prideful in this truth. You can't be arrogant. You can't be wicked. You can't think that you're all of that and you have everything. You need no help. You need the waters. You need understanding. You need the Most High to be a husbandman to you. This is the book of Daniel, chapter 4, and verse number 11. The tree grew and was strong, which is Nebuchadnezzar, and the height thereof reached unto heaven. And that's not talking about his wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Let's talk about his high heart. His heart reached up to heaven because his heart was his mind, and his mind thought that he ruled all of the kingdoms. He would trodden down the children of Israel, like you read about in Judith, chapter 6 and verse 4, that nobody could touch him, like the mind of the so-called white man, in the sight thereof to the end of all the earth. The leaves thereof were fair, meaning his understanding of how he ruled his kingdom. Because you got Babylon, which is a monarchy, meaning he didn't have to consult with any other nobles about anything. You know, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, they have a vice president. They have a judicial branch. They have a government where they establish and sit down and so-called consult with the people. Nebuchadnezzar, he sat on his throne, man. Just like the Egyptian empire. They would sit on their throne and whatever they say goes. See, a leaf is your understanding, your fruit are your works. The fruit thereof was much, meaning whatever he brought forth, whether it be the armies, the battle of Kilgamesh, right, coming into power in 605 BC, ruling, taking down men. It says in it was the meat for all, meaning he took care of his kingdom. He was the gold head. The beast, right, of the field had a shadow under it, meaning all the other nations and men, they were confederacy under Nebuchadnezzar. Now, what did Nebuchadnezzar do when you read the book of Judah? He took down all of the earth, man. Now, I don't want to stray too far off the topic, going into history, but Nebuchadnezzar, he smote everybody. When you read the book of Isaiah, starting off at the 15th chapter, you got the 15th chapter, Moab, the 16th chapter, Moab, the 17th chapter, where I believe is going into Syria, if I'm not mistaken, the 18th chapter. It's going into Ethiopia, the 19th chapter going into Egypt. So, I mean, Nebuchadnezzar, he was going on a damn killing spree, man, conquering the world, taking these beasts down and them lodging right in his tabernacles, overtaking them and the children of Israel. So a tree is symbolic, like I said, for a nation or for a man. Under it, and the fowls of heaven dwelt, and the balls thereof, and all flesh was fed of it. Meaning everybody came before his kingdom to get fed, to get nourished, right, for things to come to pass. Now, what essentially happened to Nebuchadnezzar? Being too high, being high and mighty in his understanding, neglecting the Lord, raising him up, man. And the Lord killed him. Because the Lord could bring you forth the increase, man. The Lord put the wicked on the earth for the wicked to reign, gave the wicked a short season, and brought them right to renown on the earth with gold, silver, precious metals, a government. Right, let's go to the book of Daniel, right, chapter 4, and let's start at 21. And it reads, it says, I'm gonna start at 20. The tree that thou sawest, which grew, was strong, whose height reached unto the heaven, and in the sight thereof to all the earth, whose leaves was fair, and the fruit thereof much, and in it was meat for all under. The beasts of the field dwelt upon it, whose branches and fowls of the heaven had their habitation. It is thou, O king. Thou art grown and become strong, for thy greatness is grown, and it reacheth unto heaven, and thy dominion to the ends of the earth. And whereas the king saw us a watcher. So check that out. So Nebuchadnezzar, he was rooted in this thing, man. He was grounded on the left-hand side. But what happened to the Lord? He chopped them down, put him in the wilderness, had him to eat grass like an oxen, jumping down to verse number 32. And they shall drive thee from men, and thy dwelling should be with the beast of the field. So everything's about beast. It's about a field. It's about grass. It's about water. Everything about the Lord is essentially about nature. sheep, snakes. Everything is symbolic of husbandry, of outside, of the outdoors, of the sun, affliction, scorching, the moon, delicacy, reading, understanding certain times. So these things are the Most High. The Most High speaks with you through nature. You don't have to go to a professor. You don't have to go to a specific building and pick up an old orange book and blow the dust off of it, man. All you got to do is be in tune with the understanding of the scriptures and the spirit of the Most High. It says, and shall make thee to eat grass as an oxen till 7 times pass over thee, until thou know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdoms of men and giveth it to whomsoever he will. So check that out. So the Lord could chop you down, build you up, strengthen you, and do whatever he pleaseth. So when you're talking about rain and increasing, the Most High gives the increase. Going back to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31 and verse 4, the waters made him great. So what made Adam great? The waters. Who gives the waters? Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. So Adam knew prophecy. Adam knew about the end of the world. Adam knew about Yahushua. Adam knew about in-depth secrets. You got to understand how powerful Adam was. The Lord gave Adam the spirit to name all living flesh. That's not a small lot. Adam was a king, the first recorded prophet in the Bible to have the understanding to deal with the Lord. You understand? Directly through the hand of another prophet. So if he's the first man recorded to receive the reign and the in-depthness of the strength of the Most High, because yeah, there were other prophets during the time of Adam. They had reign, they had an understanding. But what did it say? I'm going to read that again. The waters made him great. So he had the abundance of waters. The deep set him up on high. So other men and prophets during that time had water, but he was rooted as a tree under deep waters. If you have any tree, you will want your tree to be surrounded by a bank of a river. That's in Job, the 29th chapter. Let me get that real fast. You'll be a fool to want your tree to be set up by your grandmother's house, man. Just emotional. Just want to be by grandma. No other reason. You want your tree to be set up next to your car or close to your so-called job, man. So you can pick apples on your break. Now you want your tree to be set up by what? By the waters. That essentially should be what every man should be aspiring for. It says, my root was spread out by the waters. So Job, what made Job perfect? His wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, his clean heart. But that he had knowledgeable things to be a king, because his roots, meaning his foundation, was by the waters. The waters is Yahushua, but you can't stop right there, or it's just Yahushua. Well, Yahushua is prophecy. He is wisdom. He is discernment. You got to make sure that you're rooted in this walk by the waters, that nothing shakes you, and that no matter if it doesn't rain for a specific season, the Lord doesn't look upon you, that you're rooted in waters so that your leaves never fail. A lot of people, they have to watch a pastor. They have to watch a video. They have to get counsel from their husband or get counsel from a sister, or they'll fall out the truth, or they'll leave a congregation and they'll fall out the truth because they were rooted, but it wasn't by the waters. Because when affliction looked upon them, when it didn't rain in that specific season for them, what happened to the tree? The tree didn't hold up any water, just like a cactus. A cactus holds water. So it will hold up all the water when it rains, that it can sustain itself in the times of a drought. And that's how man has to be on a spiritual level. My root was spread out by the waters, and the dew laid all night upon my branch. Check that out. So all night the dew laid upon the branch. And that's his offspring. That's his understanding. Now going back to Genesis chapter 2, I'm going to get straight to the point. This is Genesis chapter 2 and verse 7. It says, and the Lord formed man of the dust of the ground. So we're made of nothing but dust and clay and ashes, and breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living soul. And the Lord planted a garden eastward in Eden. So what's the similitude of the Lord planting a garden? What's the point? What's the point of the Lord planting a garden, man? And what's the point of us being made of dust and ashes? Because dust needs some type of form of water to sustain a seed. You're made to depend on water, even with your body. Your body's made up of 70% of water. So if you want to just say, you know what, I'm going to go outside all day. I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to eat the words of life. I'm not going to read every day. What's going to happen to this tree? This tree is going to get brittle. It's going to break down, and it's not going to be able to survive the harsh winter. It says, and the Lord planted a garden eastward in Eden, and there he put a man, so like he put the man whom he had formed. And out of the ground made the Lord to grow every tree that is pleasant to the sight, for good, for food, the tree of life also in the midst of the garden, and the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So tree is man. You have good, evil. So like you have good knowledge, and you have wicked knowledge, man. The knowledge of sorcery doesn't do you any good. The knowledge of being a scientist and theologian, making bombs and wrapping around nukes is not going to do you any good. But the knowledge of the law is the doctrine of life. So the Lord formed this garden where he put these diverse trees in it. You understand? Now, this I'm not about to break down the whole book of Genesis. Most High willing, that's another video. But going back to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 31, and verse number 3, right? I'm gonna start at 4 again. The waters made him great, talking about Adam. The deep set him up on high, with the rivers running about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. So this is what we're reading right now on a spiritual level, on a deeper level, is the early rain. Let me get that in the book. Right, let's go to the book of James, chapter 5 and verse 7. Because you may ask yourself, you know, why we so destroyed as a people, man? Why we so damn wicked, man? Why we don't know anything? Why we so lost? Why is it the Lord dealing with us? Because you also have a drought. It's called the early and latter rain. So in the midst of the early and the latter rain, you have a drought season, which essentially is a 7 day of silence where the Lord took the prophets. He took the elders. He took the nobles. He took the governors. He took the kings. And we're living in a wilderness, which essentially is America, man. Noah didn't live in the wilderness. Noah knew the Lord, man. Noah knew the prophets. Noah had understanding. Noah was a very righteous man. Noah prophesied it. He shook the hand. He took up the gopher wood. He had a mind to work, man. Adam, he knew the Lord. They didn't suffer a wilderness. But what wilderness land are we living in now? But we don't have the early rain during the time of Adam, Noah, right? And we literally don't have the latter rain specifically all the way, but we're inching in having during that time right now, living in the latter rain. So you have certain men like during slavery, the 1800s, you know, the truth wasn't essentially on the earth on a deeper level. You had that small remnant according to the election of grace, like you read about in the book of Romans, the 11th chapter, verse 7 all the way down. Ezekiel chapter 6 and verse 8 all the way down, and various other precepts talking about a remnant, right? Isaiah, the 10th chapter, right? So you have to understand there's an election. And when you go to the book of Sirach, right, the 10th chapter, verse 13 all the way down, it tells you these things. Wisdom never departed from us. But now knowledge is increasing. Brothers are going into prophecy. Brother, you just woke up, damn, 2 years ago, and you're in the book of Revelation. 4 years ago, you're in the book of Revelation. There's certain men that couldn't even break down the book of Isaiah in the book of Revelation in the scriptures. You got that man that couldn't understand what he was reading in the book of Acts, the 8th chapter. And these men, they were very high of understanding. How much more now you just plucking that cigarette, putting down that jack, throwing that weed demon away, putting away all of these cares of the society and America away, man. And in literally 2 months to 5 years, you're breaking down prophecy. Because the Lord's raining on you and you don't even know it, man. These videos, the elders, the prophets, men shaking their hand, it's all water on the earth. In the midst of a dry season, in a dry place, in a wilderness, what do trees do? What do you do when you thirsty as hell, man? You go to the water fountain and you play with it. You act like a bird, man. You act like a child. I'm not thirsty. Or if you were playing outside all day football, man, and you finally get to that water bottle, you finally get to that so-called cistern, man. You finally get to the water fountain. What are you going to do to that drink? You're going to devour the drink. You're going to literally take the water bottle. You're going to be squeezing it, man. That's what our spirits are doing in this wilderness right now as the Spirit of the Lord is on the earth. And we can't even perceive it. That's why you're so thirsty to read so much, man. And be on fire and to teach everybody, because the Lord's watering you. And not only on that fold, but on a prophecy level. Let's go to the book of James, chapter 5, and verse 7. It says, be patient, therefore, brethren, until the coming of the Lord. Be patient, because with everything there's an increase. You have to be patient with your wife, so that in the latter end, y'all will come together. You have to be patient with your husband in the latter end. Y'all could come together. Be patient with your child. It may be going off, but you keep reading to them and training them up as the way they should go. Hey, thus saith the Lord, they will not depart from that. You have to be patient, right? And especially with the Lord, because a lot of people fall out the truth. Did not the Lord say, wait on me, be of good courage? Wait on me, I say. Wait on the Lord. It says, behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth. So while you really think you're waiting on the Lord on a deeper level, he's waiting on you. You may be the elect, man. All the fruit that you're growing each day is pleasant before the Lord. And he gives you things in measure, right? He doesn't give you everything at one time. The Lord is very wise. You don't just water a plant and just sick the plant. Just sick the plant with all of this water, man. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Right through the Spirit. Right? Let's go to the book of Sirach. So I can bear with me. I don't want to read this whole thing. Con, I got it. All praise to the Most High. Let's go to the book of Sirach. So the Lord isn't going to give you water all at one time. Because what gardener or what husbandman gives you water and sicks you, man? You could hurt the plant. You know how brothers come in this truth? You wouldn't want to teach a brother about Leviathan, man. He just came into the truth. He just found out what fringes was. And then you walk up to him at night and you shrug him. Hey, you heard of Leviathan? Right? He got glasses on and getting foggy, can't see, sneezing. What is that? What is Leviathan? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Now he's hungry, he's thirsty. Right? You gave him a drop and now he's thirsty. Yeah, it's a sea creature. Yeah, blow out fire. Nobody's ever seen. You know what? Hey, he's the king over the children of the proud. You start enticing him. You give him too much water, he start doing his research, he'll fall out the truth. That's on the spiritual level. That's why you gotta watch people going into everything isn't for everybody. The Lord set up the teachers, the prophets, the apostles. He set up everybody according to what the body of Yahushua in the ministry. I know everybody desires to be a prophet, but that lot isn't for everybody. That could actually hurt a lot of people. Because you start dibbling and dabbling in things that you have no business in, that's not your lot, women or men, and it could overthrow you. Because your mind starts to get tainted. Because you move off the course of what your lot actually is. Let's go to the book of Sirach, right? Chapter 16, and let's go to verse 25. And it reads, I will shew forth doctrine and wait. So does not the Lord deal with just balances? So when that rain comes, the Lord isn't going to drench you, man. It happens in due time. And the Lord is waiting for the precious fruit, meaning he waters you in due season. And you can miss your water, man. A lot of times you can miss your water. You could sleep all day. The Lord will probably increase you that day. You slept. You was in the evil spirit, right? You didn't cry out. You're not praying for the right things. It says, I will shew forth doctrine and wait and declare his knowledge exactly. So all prophecy isn't given to you when you want it and you scream because you may not be able to handle it. And the Lord's increasing and waiting for fruit. It says, and have long patience for it until he receive the early and latter rain. So the Lord's already gave the early rain. We already went over that. That's Noah, right? That's Ezekiel, that's Isaiah, that's Daniel. Those were men of understanding and wisdom. They knew parables. breakdowns, right? The Lord revealed unto Daniel secrets. Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 2nd chapter. So that water has already happened. Then from that water, it's a drought season when the Lord took away the spirit off of the earth of the prophets. Let's go to the book real fast of Daniel, chapter 2, in verse, right, number 47. And it reads, it says, the king answered unto Daniel and said, of a truth, it is that your God is a God of gods and a Lord of kings and a revealer of secrets, seeing thou couldst reveal this secret. So even the heathens know, man, that the Lord is a revealer of secrets. The Lord has the knowledge and the wisdom, and he gives it to you in part to whom deserveth the knowledge and wisdom. So everybody doesn't have it. You may cry, you may scream, but I mean, certain prophecies Daniel didn't even receive. So let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 24. It's going to further tell you that. It's the book of Sirach, right? Bear with me. Chapter 24. And we're going to go to verse 26. It says, he maketh the bank Euphrates. Now, one time, the Euphrates River, it was full of abundance, full of life, and full of water. But then it's starting to dry up in the last days. That's spiritual too. That's spiritual. Because the Lord said he maketh the understanding to abound like the Euphrates. Well, what's happening? And the Lord will take away that, man. Because he'll rain on you in the latter season for all the trees to soak up the wisdom. And then it's going to be what? A famine of the word. It's going to enter back into a drought season. Because you have the early rain, which is the time of the prophets in the elder world, in the ancient world. Then you have literally the 7 days of silence, which we're going to get into in 2nd Esdras, the 7th chapter, which was a drought, where we're living in the wilderness. And we're living in the wilderness right now. Then it's the latter rain, where Ezekiel's back on the earth. Isaiah's back on the earth. The ancient nobles and priests and men that shook their hand to have the understanding of these revelations, those men are telling them, man. Did not the Lord tell John that thou mayest prophesy again before many peoples and nations? Hey, that was in 90 to 95 AD. Hey, John was an old man on the island of Patmos. Where's the account of him doing this all over again? Let's go to that real fast. Let's go to the book of Revelation. So you better soak this up while you can, man. This isn't a game, man. Right? It's the book of Revelation, chapter 10. And I'm going to start at verse number 11. It says, and he said unto me, thou must prophesy nations and kings. It says, and as the Jordan in the time of the harvest. So the Jordan River is the Lord's favorite river. You understand? And he makes it during that time, like the time of the harvest, the abundance of knowledge. It says he maketh the knowledge, the doctrine of knowledge appear as the light, and as began in time of vintage. The first man knew her not perfectly, right? No more shall the last find her out. So a wisdom in the water and understanding, no man knows it perfectly because we're still seeing through a glass. Paul didn't know everything perfectly. No man knew everything exactly and perfectly of all prophecies and in-depth revelations and understandings. For her thoughts are more than the sea. So wisdom thoughts are equated to what? Water. Trees, like the book of Job, the 29th chapter, had to be associated by the sea. And her counsels profound the great deep. I also came out as a brook from a river. I'm going to read that again. I also came out as a brook from a river. Meaning what? Everybody right now, you're starting off by a brook of a river. Then you continue to increase and you become a river. And then after the river, you become a sea. And if you can receive it, that's the knowledge of the Most High. So everybody else, they may start off with a water fountain. They may start off with a drink. But you have certain men that like a sea. and you're surrounded by that sea, which is the knowledge. Isn't it nothing but waters surrounded by the Lord's throne? Let me get that real fast in the book of Isaiah. Salaki, the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47. From the throne itself is issuing out water. And that water is going down, which is associated with rain, which is not physical water, but it's coming down on earth in due season, in part, in measurement, hitting the right trees at the right seasons and the right times. Waking men up, strengthening men up, having them to understand prophecy, breakdowns, parables, because it's not of yourself. How in the world do you know what's going on in the book of Job, man? There's no explanation in it. Ecclesiastes, there's no breakdown. Proverbs, certain things in Proverbs, you think it's talking about that. It's not even talking about that, man. Right? Let's go to the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47. It's the Most High. It's the book of Ezekiel, chapter 47, verse 1. Afterward, he brought me again unto the door of the house. And behold, the waters issued out under the threshold of the house eastward. Now, eastward is the direction of Jerusalem. So the waters from the tabernacle of witness and the Most High's throne are issuing out to Israel. From the forefront of the house stood toward the east. And the waters came down from under the right side of the house and at the south side of the altar. And that's all spiritual, right? It says, then brought he me out to the way of the gate northward and led me about the way without unto the edge of the gate by the way that looked eastward. And behold, there ran out waters on the right side. So you got to picture this, man. Ezekiel is getting a vision of waters issuing out from the Most High's throne. And that's crystal water, man. Like the book of Revelation, the 22nd chapter says. Not tainted water, not cesspool. Did not the Lord say drink waters out of that own cistern? That's what's wrong with our people. We so thirsty, we drink anything, man. You're so thirsty, you're drinking a cesspool of water. Did not the Lord say in the book of Jeremiah, the 2nd chapter, he have healed me out broken cisterns of water that could hold no water? So why are we doing these things? Why do we want to be professors so bad? Scientists, celebrities. Why do we want the knowledge of evil instead of the knowledge of good? Nobody want to know about Ezekiel. Hey, bro, I just break down in Ezekiel. But let you talk about some in-depth chopper or gun or some wise to do evil madness. He's sharp on that, man. Because they increase in the waters of broken cisterns. Like the Lord said in the book of Sirach, and I'm quoting for sake of time, I don't want to pull 1,000 precepts, that man that can't hold wisdom is like a broken pot with holes in it. So if you're a pot and the Lord's the potter and he's making a sculpture, like you read about in Jeremiah, the 18th chapter, which is you, and you got holes in you, how's the water going to stay in you? How are you going to increase and hold that knowledge in? It says, and he brought me through the waters were to the ankles. Now, why is the waters going to Ezekiel's ankles first? Because it takes time to be increased with the waters, the knowledge, the wisdom, the parables. When you first came into this truth, just like a tree, it was what? That first little scent of a bud. Then it started to grow roots. A tree right now, you could drench it with water, man. A fully developed tree. It could rain for almost a whole day and that tree still stand. But let that happen to something that just budded. It's not going to stand. So the Lord had the waters to increase to the ankles. Now, this is over a allotted point of time, how the water, which is the wisdom and the doctrine and prophecies increasing on the earth. It says again, he's like a measure 1,000 and brought me through the waters, and the waters were to the knees. And again, he measured 1,000 and brought me through, and the waters were to the loins. So it went from the ankles to the knees. Now it's all the way to the loins. It says, and afterward he measured 1,000, and it was a river that I could not pass over. And Ezekiel is 7 times wiser than me, 7 times wiser than anybody I ever knew. So if the waters were too damn deep for Ezekiel to swim in, think about the knowledge of the Most High. Just pause and really think about it, man. All you don't know. Your wildest imaginations, your wildest dreams, your wildest aspirations of things that you could think about as you sleep is nothing compared to what the Most High can actually do. What your brain go to? I could teleport. I could fly. I could transport it to somebody else. That's carnal or small. Think about stuff we can't even think about that the Most High could even do. The Most High may shape your mind, not even to be able to think outside of a damn box that could even reach 1% of who he actually is and what he can actually do. So this knowledge for Ezekiel to swim in, he said it was too much. Drop a man in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. You can't do that. It's like letting a man know all about Yahweh Bashem Yahushua. He can't survive that. He can't live in that, man. So when you go back to Sirach, it says, I also came out as a brook from the river, as we all, and as I conduct into a garden. So that brook is going into that garden. But in due season, the Lord is going to increase that water of a brook to go into what? We're about to read it, a river. I said I will water my best garden. The best garden is Israel, right? Let me get a quick precept on that, just in case brothers don't know. The garden is Israel. That's in John 15 and verse 1 and Isaiah chapter 5. Right, let's go to Isaiah chapter 5. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 5 and verse number 1. And it reads, it says, now I will sing to my well-beloved a song of my beloved as touching his vineyard. My well-beloved has a vineyard in a very fruitful hill. So in a very fruitful hill, right? Let's talk about Israel. That's that fruitful hill. That vineyard is Israel. So the place of where the Lord said it is in a very fruitful place, which is the nation of Israel. So the Lord's going to water his best garden. And I will water abundantly my garden bed. And lo, my brook became a river. And my river became a sea. So over the course of time, men start to increase and know more than men that have been before them. I know that's hard to believe that certain men know more than Peter, because Peter was very wise. He knew knowledge, wisdom, the law, but he didn't know the book of Revelation. Certain things came after the prophets. Jeremiah didn't know the in-depth breakdowns of John in the Revelation, in the locusts, and certain things. So it would be impossible for those men to even be on a certain level that was slucky, that would even push them to know half of the things that men know now. Because the water wasn't on the earth at that time, the abundance, the way it was, the way it is now. We know about Peter and we know about Noah. Abraham didn't have the book of Hebrews. Yeah, these men dealt with the Lord in depthly, firsthand, face to face, and not physically face to face, but with voice and directly, not through dreams, visions, or prophets. Right? Let me get this quick precept. Right? Let's go to the book of Peter. Right, let's go to 2 Peter. It's the book of 2 Peter. Get this quick precept. It's the book of 2 Peter, chapter 1, verse 19, and it reads, we have also a more sure word of prophecy. So Peter is even telling you that they had more of a sure word of prophecy than men that were before them. Whereunto ye do well that ye take heed unto a light that shineth in a dark place, until the day dawn and the day star arise in your heart. It says until the day dawn, meaning it's a light that's increasing each and every day. That's the knowledge and the revealing of Yahushua. Even the so-called white man knows who Yahushua is, man. The news reporters. Everybody's documenting the Israelites, what's going on. This knowledge is spreading like a wildfire, man. It says, let me read that again. We have also a more sure word of prophecy. So what Peter did, how much more the men that know about Peter and the prophecies that were told by Peter by Yahushua. That's why Yahushua said all throughout the Gospels, in this day, this word is fulfilled. And he's like, damn, fulfilled? Then we go read about it in Isaiah. Damn, okay, that's when it was fulfilled. Because Yahushua was teaching them directly. Men during the time of Isaiah, you got to think Isaiah was on the streets. Jeremiah was on the streets. They didn't have classrooms. They were in slavery. So if Isaiah is in the middle of the street going like this, prophesied in Jeremiah, men don't know what the hell is going on, man. He's talking about Ramatha and this and these parables and a potter in the house. Imagine a man on the street and a potter came to the house and then a potter said, like, what is he talking about? Nobody's going to sit there Indian style looking up. Potter in the house. Can I link this up? Shh. No, there was a rebellious house. People trying to jump Jeremiah, spitting on him, yelling at him, detaining him, putting him in dungeons. So nobody even really had to understand him back then, but the men that the Lord was dealing with. So when these breakdowns started to be revealed in these secrets by Yahweh Shai as time revealed itself, and essentially in the Gospels, Peter said, look, I knew more of the prophecies and things that were hidden because the Lord revealed them unto us. And how much more when the Holy Spirit is resting on the men of the Lord now. And that's literally a blessing. The Lord said, he shall teach thee all things and bring all things to thy remembrance, which thou hast learned. What does he mean, things to thy remembrance? Yeah, you could keep it on one low level. Oh yeah, what's that precept again? But on a deeper level, those things to remembrance is that spirit 1,000 years ago. It's that prophecy you already knew. That brother may have wrote it, man. He may have been Baruch in the ancient world. So when these things are coming to pass, that's the spirit of the Most High and the increase of that reign. Let's go to the book of John, chapter 14, verse 28. Right? Let's start at 26. It says, but the Comforter, which is the Holy Ghost, whom the Father will send in my name, he shall teach thee you all things and bring all things to your remembrance whatsoever I have said unto thee. So the Lord's bringing things to men's remembrance in the last days. Let's go to the back to the book, right? Of Sirach. Right, I don't want to go back to the book of Sirach, chapter 24. Just the book of Sirach, chapter 24. And I'm gonna start at go back to 28. 32. Right, that's where we left off at. I will yet make doctrine shine as the morning, and I will send forth her light afar off. This is the point. I will yet pour out doctrine as prophecy. So what's being poured out in the last days, man? Prophecy. And leave it to all ages forever. So if the Lord's going to pour out prophecy and we're in the land of the wilderness, what's happening right now in the wilderness? You may ask yourself, how do we know that we're even in the wilderness? How does that make sense that we're physically in the wilderness? I can go to the so-called bathroom. I could take a shower. I could drink water. I can go to the so-called Giants and all the Lions and all of the so-called stores. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 12, and verse, right? I'm going to start at 14. And to the woman were given 2 wings. That woman is Israel. 2 wings is to fly away, right? Like you read about in the book of Isaiah. So like in the book of Psalms, chapter 55, of a great eagle, because a great eagle conquers the sky, that she may fly into the wilderness. The wilderness is America. We were given 2 wings to go into America, into her place where she is nourished. Now we got beaten, whooped in slavery in America, but when it means nourished, what happens when you're nourished? You get the milk, you get the honey in due time, you start to grow bones, you come back to life. This is the place where we're getting nourished up at, man. Because I received my milk in the land of Babylon. The bread, the honey, the wisdom, the milk, it's like the wine. We're getting nourished up in this place. We're coming back to life in Babylon, in the wilderness, which is a miracle for a time, times and a half a time, right? It says, from the face of the serpent. The serpent is the so-called white man, right? 200, it's like 1,260 days. right, is this prophecy, which you're not necessarily going to go into, but the 40 and 2 months. The same thing you read about in the book of Revelations, the 11th chapter. And the serpent cast out of his mouth waters as a flood after the woman, that he may cause her to be carried the way of the flood. And that's spiritual, and that's twofold. Because if Satan is going to cast water at you in the wilderness, that's what you will want, man, on another fold. So you could drink it all up and sustain yourself, every lie, every philosophy, and every doctrine. And on another fold, and a main fold level, to be carried away, meaning floods of destruction, to be destroyed by all type of his witchcraft, his lies, and his carnal physical weaponry and his war, man, to kill you, to wage war against you. It says, I'm not going to necessarily dive too deep into this, but we're in the wilderness. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. Matter of fact, let's go to Psalms chapter 63 and verse 1. Because David prophesied it about being in the wilderness. It's the book of Isaiah. It's like the book of Psalms chapter 63 and verse number 1. It says, when he was in the wilderness of Judah, that's spiritual. O Yahweh, thou art my God. Early will I seek thee. My soul thirsteth for thee. My flesh longeth for thee in a dry and thirsty land where no water is. There's no water in Babylon, man. What's the water of Babylon? What's the water of Babylon, man? Getting your bachelor's degree? What's the water of Babylon, man? Getting associates? Going back to school for 5 years just to get that plaque so that people could come to your house and you could point to it, man? Or you could say that you're a so-called scientist, or nobody cares about none of that, man. That's not water. That's not going to sustain you. That's carnal witchcraft. Because the so-called white man can say you could take this course and it'll make you high renown in the society and really chief amongst men of wisdom. And men will be diving and damn lusting to get it. Let's go to the book of Isaiah chapter 42. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 42 and verse number 1. As the heart panteth after the water brook, because we panteth after the true water and the true knowledge, so panteth my soul after thee, O Yahweh. So David is saying, like that man that hasn't had a cold glass to drink in God knows how long, that's how our souls is thirsting after the Lord. Why? Because we're in this wilderness. When you go to the book of Proverbs, I believe that's 25 and 25. Let me get that real fast. Proverbs chapter 25 and 25. It says, as cold waters to a thirsty soul, so is good news from a far country. That far country on a spiritual level is Jerusalem, man. That's the far country. The good news is the gospel. And it's coming through the prophets. It's coming through the rain. It's coming through the wind, blowing throughout the four corners of the earth, having the spices flow out. And that cold and thirsty soul is us, man. Because when I had this first cold glass and I got rained on, because we're filthy. That water is symbolic on multiple levels raining down on you, man. If you're coated up with a filthy garment and you got all spots and blemishes on you, what does the water do? It cleanses you. It washes you. It has you to be able to drink from it. And it's pure, coming from the throne of the Most High. It says, as cold waters to a thirsty soul. So we're thirsty in this wicked world. Now let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras. Let's go into the 7 days of silence. Because we're going into how we're in a wilderness. Because we're essentially in a wilderness. All right, let's go to it. Let's go to the book of 2nd Esdras, right, chapter 7. And I'm going to start at, let me see. Just lock it, bear with me. We're going to go to 28. And it reads, for my son Yahushua shall be revealed with those that be with him. Now, when it says my son Yahushua, it's not talking about Joshua. It's not talking about Hosea. And it's not talking about Sirach. It's talking about Hamashiach wa Malak, the king. For my son Yahushua shall be revealed with those that be with him, and they shall remain, right, shall rejoice within 400 years. Now, that 400 years, you're going up to the time of the New Testament, right? Because you had the Persian-Medo Empire from the time of Malachi. So that's the 400 years. You go to the book of Daniel, right, the 7th chapter. Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 7th chapter. Salaki, the 9th chapter. Let's go to the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter. Let's go to it. It's the book of Daniel, the 9th chapter. Right? And we're going to start at verse, right? We don't get too deep. Verse 25. Now therefore, and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to destroy, to restore and build Jerusalem, the going forth of the commandment is Cyrus. That's the commandment being given to restore and to build up Jerusalem from the hand of the captivity of Nebuchadnezzar. And to the Messiah, the prince, shall be 7 weeks. Right? You had 70 weeks. And 62 weeks, the street should be built again, and the wall even in troublous times. Right? And after 62 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince shall come and destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, and the end of the war desolations are determined. So it's saying after the Messiahs will want to get cut off, the people of the prince, which is the Roman Empire, shall come in and destroy the city, meaning the siege in 70 AD started from 66, and a sanctuary, which was destroyed, and a body, which is Yahushua, which is the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with a flood, meaning destruction, and to the end of the war desolations are determined, because that was an abomination of desolation. So it's telling you right here from this time that it's going to be cut off. When you go back to the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 7 verse 28, for my son Yahushua shall be revealed with those that be with them, and they shall remain, shall rejoice within 400 years. After these years shall my son Yahushua die, and all men that have life. Why is it saying that all men are going to die that have life? What is life? Wisdom. Yahushua, understanding. Essentially, when Yahushua died and the sheep scattered, it was a spirit more of that the truth wasn't on the earth. Because Yahushua is the light, and that light got taken out of the earth for a dispensation of time. Not that men didn't do the acts of the apostles, not that there wasn't Peter, James, John, not that it wasn't Paul, not that it wasn't Barnabas, right, Silas, and all of the men, Mark, that did the work of the Lord. But essentially, after that time, the truth started to unwind and go back to the secret chambers. Now, wisdom has chambers that it resorts to. Let's go to the book, right, at Sirach, so like it's 2nd Esdras. I don't want to hold this. Let's go to the book at 2nd Esdras. Let's go to 2nd Esdras through the Spirit. It's the book of 2nd Esdras. So I can bear with me. I'm going to read this again. I'm going to go to it. After these years shall my son Yahushua die, and all men that have life. Right? So it's not saying that all men are going to physically die. Right? That wisdom got removed off of the earth on a deeper level and went back to the secret chambers of the third heaven. This is the book of 2nd Esdras chapter 5. And I'm going to start at verse. This whole thing's fire. I'm going to start at verse number 9. It says, and salt water should be found in the sweet. Now, this time it's talking about the end of the world and World War III with the timelines. It says salt water should be found in the sweet. And that's not literal. That's meaning that things are going to be upside down. Meaning you may see a damn deer somewhere it don't need to be, man. You may see a crocodile somewhere it don't need to be. Or some type of lion in a diverse place. Meaning the salt waters are going to be found in the sweet. Meaning things are going to be upside down. And all friends shall destroy one another. Because that's a sedition and hatred as iniquity increases. Then shall wit hide itself. So it's not a strange thing for wit to hide itself. Wit's been hiding itself for years, for centuries, and understand withdraw itself into its secret chamber. Now, that secret chamber is in the third heaven. Now, when you go to Ezekiel, the seventh chapter, it tells you all throughout the scriptures how wit hides itself. And wit is understanding and wisdom. It's not going to always be on the earth. Let's go to the book, Ezekiel chapter 7, real fast, verse 25. It says, destruction cometh, and they shall seek peace, and there shall be none. Mischief shall come upon mischief, and rumor shall be upon rumor, and they shall seek a vision of the prophet. So when all hell was breaking loose, and you should have listened to Ezekiel, man. You should have listened to Jeremiah. You should have listened to the men during the Babylonian Empire telling you to repent. But the law shall perish from the priests and counsel from the ancients. Check that out. So that everybody will be seeking a vision, but wit's going to hide itself. Just like the prophets that are on the earth right now is going to be the same time of the time of Ezekiel. They shake their hand, but then when all hell actually comes to pass of what they were speaking about, that everybody's going to be seeking now a vision, crying out to the Lord. The same way now. It says, the king shall mourn, and the princes shall be clothed with desolation. And that's the king of Israel and the princes and nobles. They're going to be clothed with desolation, meaning all the prophecy that came to pass. And the hands of the people of the land should be troubled, because they didn't hearken, and it's judgment. And I will do unto them after their way, after their sins, according to their deserts, right? I will judge them, and they shall know that I am the Lord. So let's go to the book of Joel. So when you go to the book of Joel, it also tells you how wit hides itself and how the water is only on the earth for a specific time and season. So when that thing come to pass, was prophesied in the second Esdras, the seventh chapter, about the 7 days of silence. Let me go read the latter end of that. Right, this second Esdras chapter 7, verse 29. After these years shall my son Yahushua die, and all men that have life. And the world shall be turned into the old silence 7 days. What does it mean, the old silence? What does that mean? Does that mean nobody's going to talk for 7 years? 7 days? People are going to be really, 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 really quiet, man. The beasts aren't going to howl. The birds aren't going to chirp. And man is going to be named like Zechariah, man. It's not what that's talking about. When it says the old silence 7 days, meaning what? The sound of prophecy is the sound of the temple. It's the sound of dancing. It's the sound of the prophecies of the Most High. Like David, he prophesied it upon a harp. That's music. So the music right now, the spirit to dance and snap your fingers to is on the earth. So if you don't have that and it's removed, then what do you have? You have silence. You don't have the sweet melody. You don't have that prophecy in a company of singers harping and singing unto you anymore, man. You have nothing but desolation. Let's go to the book real fast of 1 Samuel chapter 10. Let me get that real fast. All right, it's the book of 1 Samuel, right, the 10th chapter. And we're going to verse number 10, right? It says, and when they came thither to the hill, behold, and a company of prophets met him, and the Spirit of God came upon him, and he prophesied it among them. So when a company of prophets met Saul, Salaki, and they started to prophesy among them, it says, and it came to pass when all that knew before him, this before time, saw that behold, he prophesied among the prophets. Then the people said one to another, is this that come unto the son of Kish? Is Saul also among the prophets? I mean, what the hell is going on, man? Right? Jumping down to verse 13. And when he had made an end of prophesying, he came to the high place. So let's see what prophesying is associated with. Let's go to the book, right, of Matthew. Get this quick precept real fast. Let's go to Matthew, the 11th chapter. It's the book of Matthew, right? Chapter 11. And we're going to start at around 16, right? And it reads, "But whereunto shall I liken this generation? It is likened unto children sitting in the markets, and calling unto their fellows, and saying, We have piped unto you, and ye have not danced." So right now, the prophets are piping unto the men on the highways and byways. They're sitting up here piping and playing their best melody, meaning they're giving it their all. They're playing Ezekiel, they're playing Jeremiah, they're playing Isaiah, they're playing Haggai, they're playing Nahum. Now, people, they may want to hear some little baby, man. They may want to hear some sex. They may want to hear some violence. They may want to hear some lies and some folly and some madness. They may want to hear the song and dance of Babylon. That's why the Lord said in the book of Isaiah, the 24th chapter, you have two types of dances in the spirit on the earth of music. You have righteous music and you have wicked music. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 24 real fast. So maybe you don't want to hear this track, man. A lot of people have a keen sense of music they like. Nah, I don't like that. Play the next track. Nah, I don't like that. Play the next track. I don't like that. You put on the most weirdest sounds, the strangest music, heavy rock, that metal, yelling, screaming, violence, cussing, and then they start dancing to it. They start pumping to it. Your spirit not right. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 24, and I'm gonna start at verse 7. The new wine mourneth, meaning the knowledge. The vine languish, meaning Judah. All the merry hearted do sigh, meaning men that were once dancing are now in mourning. The mirth of tabrets cease, the noise of them that rejoice endeth, the joys of the harp cease. Now that's not talking about the righteous music, that's talking about of America. Because America's harping the same way as David is, but on the left hand side. That rejoicing sound you're supposed to get by hearing the precepts, I mean, it's gone now, man. So what are you dancing to? Are you dancing to Babylon or are you dancing to this truth? Because if you hear death, you hear prophecy, you hear lamentations, woe, you hear that your mother may die, your daughter may be killed, your son may be caught up in a damn pestilence, and you're not dancing to that, and you're not wanting the will of the Most High to come to pass, then you're in the way, and the Lord is going to destroy you, man. And people get offended when brothers say, well, the Lord is going to destroy you. Well, take it up with the Most High, man. The Lord said, I tell you nay, but except you repent, you shall all likewise perish. So if anybody gets offended, all praise to the Most High. And the Lord said, blessed is he that is not offended in me. So you can't have soft skin in this truth. You can't be sensitive. Hey, the Lord is a man of war, also a man of mercy and wisdom and knowledge and compassion. But you don't want to be ignorant and paint the Most High up to Christianity and paint it on your heart, man. Hey, this Bible is about death, man, and mourning. What's more in the scriptures, prophecy, or you just learn how to forgive somebody, man? This book is a book of prophecy. Yahweh Shah himself is the spirit of prophecy. There's prophecy in Genesis, there's prophecy in Revelation. We can't stray off of the will of the Most High. We have to love one another, show compassion and mercy, but we also have to dive into the prophecies and breakdowns. It says this, verse 17, and saying, we have piped unto you, and ye have not danced. We have mourned unto you, and ye have not lamented. So check that out, man. So, I mean, playing upon tables, if you're not getting down with the melody of what's going on, then I don't know what to tell you, man. The Lord may not be dealing with you, or you may have to cry out a little harder or pray that the Most High unstops your ears. That's why the Lord said in Isaiah, it was a prophecy that the Lord would stop the ears of men, that they would not be able to be healed. And stopping their ears is causing them not to be able to hear. And it's not talking about hear the grandfather tell them to pass them the salt. It's talking about hear this melody that's going on. When you go to the book, let me get this quick precept since I'm already in Isaiah. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 29. This Isaiah, right? Chapter 29. And I'm gonna start at this whole thing is fire. It says, verse 10, for the Lord will pour out upon you the spirit of deep sleep, and have closed your eyes. The prophets and your rulers, the seers, have he covered. So the Lord is covering certain men's eyes and ears. Verse 12, and the book is delivered to them that is not learned, saying, read this, I pray thee. And he saith, I am not learned. So you have men given the Bible in the last days. They don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to read this. They're not going to understand the prophecies because they were never rained on. They never were given to it. Right? Let's go back to the book. Right? A second Esdras, right? Chapter 7, verse 30. It says, and the world should be turned into the old silent 7 days, like as in the former judgments. Meaning what? In the same time Ezekiel. Because they got turned into silence. The Lord took away their prophets, their priests, their nobles and kings, so that no man shall remain. That's not talking about no man's going to be alive. And it's not literally saying no man is going to remain. It's saying that only few men of a small remnant is going to remain. So that it's like no man remains. Now, let's get that in the book of Joel. Let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 1, right? And I'm going to start at verse 9. It says, the meat offering and the drink offering is cut off from the house of the Lord. The priests and the Lord's ministers mourn. So on a deeper level, what is the meat offering? The meat offering is the bread, which is the grain offering. The bread is the body. Whose body is the bread? Yahushua. So the meat offering is one of the most deepest offerings and most powerful offerings in the scriptures. So if the meat offering is taken away, which is the bread, and the drink offering, what is the drink offering? The wine. What is the wine symbolic of? The blood. So you have the bread, which is the body, and the wine, which is the blood, taken away from the nation, which are the priests, which make intercessions on the behalf of Israel, and it's taken away. What are you going to have, man? You're not going to have Yahushua. Yeah, you can look at it with the meat and the grain, huh? And then all the priests, they go like, they fold their arms. The priests are a light. They make provisions and they help Israel. They offer up sacrifices. For essentially, they're a low-level intercession. Like the Lord, he pleads on the behalf of our sins. The priest, he would sit up there in the tabernacle and he would do the work of the Lord, burning sacrifices all day and night. It says the field is wasted. What is the field? The nation. The land mourneth. What are the land? The people. And the corn is wasted. What is the corn? Yeah, it's physical corn. But what's corn spiritually, man? Corn is a blessing. That's what corn is in the Bible. It's a blessing. If the Lord gave you corn, then that would mean that he rained down in the time of the harvest and you got an increase. Because everybody didn't get an increase. Everybody didn't get the corn. The corn is a blessing from the Lord. Let's get that in the law. So when you read these things, it all goes back to Yahushua. It goes back to the law. Right? Matter of fact, we already got a window opened up. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy chapter 11. Right? And let's start at verse 14. Let's get straight to the point. Right? It says that I will give you the rain of your land in due season. So what's a blessing in the law? Getting rain in due season. You don't want to get rain when you need it the most. Like you don't want to not get rain when you need it the most, man. And rain is spiritual. Because when we had our land, that's the only way that the Lord could truly bless you. He increased your cattle with rain. He have you to be able to drink and sustain all of your beasts and yourself with rain. You washed yourself with rain. Rain was an increase to your crops. We're agricultural people, man. So within this rain and being husbandmen and being farmers and being shepherds and cattlemen, you understand? We need the rain. In due season is spiritual because the Lord doesn't rain on you every time you want it. Lord, I broke my ankle. Then it started raining. Lord, what does this mean again? In Isaiah chapter 36, then it started raining. No, every season deals with heavy times of harvest. Like during the time of Ruth, it was the barley season. So it's that season okay, it's the barley harvest. So everybody get the barley together. You can't be shucking and jiving and twiddling your thumbs and playing the Game Boy and throwing rocks. in the time of the harvest, man, or the time beginning leading up to the harvest. You had to be breaking down the clods, right? Moving it, the finches, casting forth the finches, rather, closing it back up with your oxen, tilling the whole ground, and waiting for that increase. For the first rain and the latter rain. So the first rain and the latter rain go back to the law, which essentially is a blessing, which trickles down on a spiritual level to prophecy. It says, that thou mayest gather in thy corn and thy wine and thy oil. Check that out. What is corn? It's a blessing and it's wisdom, right? But on a mainfold level, it's a blessing. Wine. You want wine? Wine is as good as life to man. You know, wine is a blessing. Oil is a blessing. It says, and I will send grass in thy fields for thy cattle, that thou mayest eat and be full. Check that out. Take heed to yourselves that your heart be not deceived, and ye turn not aside, like you turn aside and serve other gods and worship them. And then the Lord's wrath be kindled against you, and he shut up the heaven. Check that out, man. So the Lord can shut up the heaven. Now, that's on a physical level in the law. But if you make the Lord angry, he'll shut up the heaven on you spiritually. You're wondering why your house is out of order. You're wondering why your children keep smoking crack. You're wondering why your wife, she's on drugs. You wonder why your husband, he's falling out the faith. You wonder why you don't have a congregation to go to. The Lord's shutting up the heavens on you, man. Whether that be for righteous affliction or whether that be for destruction. But the Lord can shut up the heavens. What was the heavens used for? They were windows. You open up the windows like you read about in Malachi, the second chapter. The Lord says, see thee not that I pour thee out a blessing. Pour thee out a blessing. Let's get fast. Let's go to Malachi real fast. Let's the book, right in Malachi chapter 2, in verse number 8. And it reads, I'm going to start at 7. For the priest's lips should keep knowledge, and they should seek the law at his mouth, for he is the messenger of the Lord of hosts. But ye are departed out of the way. What happens when you depart out of the way? And the Lord shut up the heavens. Ye have caused many to stumble at the law. They were hypocrites, and they didn't deal with just measurements and balances. That was a very important thing to do in the law. The Lord want a fourth of an ephod and 2 measurements of meal, this and that. Man, they may just be grabbing it up, slapping it down, eyeballing it, going off. Ye have corrupted the covenant of Levi, saith the Lord of hosts. Therefore have I also made you contemptible and base before all the people, according as ye have not kept my ways and have been partial in the law. Check this out. Salakia. Reading on. It says, Salakia, bear with me. Right, I want 3 and 8, Salakia. Let's go to Malachi 3 and 8. That's what I want. But I'm going to start at 9. It's the book of Malachi, chapter 3. No, I'm going to start at 8. 3 and 8. Man of God, ye have robbed me. Now, let's not talk about your tithes and your offering now. Because in the book of Deuteronomy, the 14th chapter, verse 21 all the way down, what did you have to do? You had to bring forth that increase, and you have 3 different offerings. Now, we're not going to end up going to an offering breakdown and how it was implemented in the law, but nevertheless, you're robbing God by not giving forth the fruit of your increase to be stored in the storehouses for the priests. That's how you rob God. Not by flipping you forgot to flip your coin, man. The collection plate went around. The love offering, the peace offering, the building offering, the basement offering, the attic offering. Then it's just getting dizzy in church, man. It's so many collection plates. It look like you at a plant. You work in a plant, and then all you do is like stamping boxes, just box after box and box after box, and it feel like you at work. That's how the Christian church operates, and it's so many deacons standing around. You feel like you're being boxed in, man, like you can't leave. It says, ye are cursed with the curse. Now, what was the curse that those men were cursed with? That the Lord didn't rain down upon their harvest. That's essentially a curse. So when you don't receive knowledge every day, you're not increasing as a tree, and this is a harvest, and the latter rain is being implemented on the earth, you have to see how deep that is. Ye are cursed with the curse, for ye have robbed me. And you may rob the Lord, man. You may not give offerings, and I'm not talking about physical carnal offerings to your carnal bishop or your carnal church. I'm talking about what? You're not giving to the homeless. You're not showing compassion. You're robbing the Lord of his Thanksgiving offering, right? Meaning praising him. You're not keeping the feast days. You're just robbing him of his due offering. It says, even this whole nation, bring ye all the tithes into the storehouse. The storehouse is where all of the priests stored the goods, that there may be meat in my house. Improve me now, wherewith, saith the Lord. Meaning, see if I'm playing. If I will not open you the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, that there should not be room enough to receive. Now, the Christians may use this and say that the Lord is going to get you a new pair of shoes. He's going to guide you, and your uncle is going to push away. He's not going to have cancer. You know, your wife, she's going to get a new car, new rims, and new tires. It's not what that's talking about. That increase was really on the land, which brought forth even more than what you gave. Because you may feel like you only got this much to give. You know, damn, I kind of got to save this, man. I got to feed my sheep and my cattle and my offerings. I don't know. I'm taking a gamble. I don't know if I'm going to make it through a harvest. But then you give it anyway. And the Lord opened up the windows, which is the third heaven. He rained you down. Next thing you know, man, you got nothing but fruit that you can see. Nothing but corn. Your cornfields are full. So that's the spirit of the Most High. We're not in this thing to watch the Most High give to us. We're in this thing led by hope and by faith. To hope in that reward, the hope in mercy, the hope in grace. So going back to it, right? Let's go back to Salaki. Let's go back to Joel. So it says, verse 10, the field is wasted, the land mourning. And all of this is spiritual, even though it's a physical account. The corn is wasted. Now, what was the corn symbolic of? The increase. Let me get another precept on that. Let's go to Sirach chapter 40. So the corn was a similitude of an increase of the land, right? Let's get it real fast. Let's go to the book of Sirach. So when you see corn in the scriptures, you know, it's not talking about corn on the cob. Let's go to the book of Sirach, chapter 40. Here's Sirach, chapter 40. All right, we're going to get verse 22. And it reads, then thine eye desire favor and beauty, but more than both corn while it is green. What does that mean? Your eye desireth favor and beauty, but more than both corn while it's green. You know, carnally, don't nobody desire no corn, man. Don't nobody want no corn on the cob rather than your eye desiring beauty. Because your eye is going to look at that woman. It's going to look at that gold chain. It's going to look at that yacht. It's going to look at the chief things that it desires and beauty. You know, your eye loves beauty, man. It loves a nice portrait or a painting or a beautiful woman. It says, thine eye desireth favor and beauty, but more than both corn while it is green. That's how you know it's deeper than corn on the cob. Because that corn while it is green is that corn during the time of the harvest. Because you've been waiting for it all season. Because your eye may desire this and desire that. But more than your eye desiring that woman in that yacht is your eye looking at that, watching the increase happen over time, and then finally seeing the corn grow up while it is green. The patience that you have was worth it. The harvest, which is not just one corn on the cob, which is a whole field, is worth it. The time you put in is worth it. So all of that's spiritual. The corn while it's green is it's reaching its perfection. Check that out. So everything has a time and a harvest and an increase that the Most High is dealing with. Because you may want a new house, Well, what would you rather see? The fruit of your reward come to pass and you get in the kingdom, or your eye desiring beautiful things in this life? Because I don't care about a new house, man. I don't care about a car. Yeah, we want to get around and have a place to stay, but I mean, essentially, we're waiting for that harvest. We want to see that corn turn green, man. We want to see the husbandman get ready with the sheaf, right? Going back to Joel, it says, the field is wasted, the land mourneth, for the corn is wasted. The new wine is dried up, and the oil languished. The corn is wasted, meaning the blessings. The harvest of the increase of the land is gone. The new wine is dried up, meaning the knowledge of the prophets and elders and noblemen. The oil languished, meaning the wisdom that would have preserved those men on spiritual levels. Be ye ashamed, O ye husbandmen. Who are the husbandmen? The prophets. They're the ones that tend to the vineyard, that get the vineyard in order. How, O ye vine dressers? For the wheat and for the barley, because the harvest of the field is perished. Because if you were in the ancient world, that's all you live for is the harvest, man. You wake up in the morning, you go to work, you're whipping your sheep around and guiding them the right way for the harvest. You're making them go this way. You're living in this specific land. Where you lived pertained to the harvest, where the grass was green, to take care of your cattle. So everything on a carnal level, not your spirit and your soul, but everything was the harvest. And everything's the harvest in this land. Because we're waiting, man. Brothers are growing every day and sisters are growing every day. We're just waiting for that harvest and that increase, right? Let's go to it. Let's go to the book of Joel, chapter 2. It's the book of Joel, chapter 2, and I'm going to start at 22, right? And it reads, it says, be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. So the Lord said, don't be afraid, because the pasture is going to spring forth out of the wilderness, meaning that grass for us to eat in a dry place. For the tree beareth fruit, the fig tree and the vine doeth yield forth, so like a yield their strength. So the fig tree and the cedar tree, when you read the scriptures, it's like symbolic for like the elect. Those are the strongest trees. You want to be a cedar tree. You want to be a fig tree, right? Those are the trees you want to be in the Bible. Because those are the men that are going to get the kingdom. Because you have many types of trees in the Bible, which are types of men. Let's go to the book real fast of Isaiah chapter 14. Let's prove that. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 14 and verse number 7. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Now, why are those the only two trees that are rejoicing when the king of Babylon is taken down and the nation of Israel is being set up? Because the fig tree and the cedar tree are the elect. Since thou art laid down, no feller is come up against us, meaning nobody's going to kill us. What does a so-called white man do on a carnal level? He take the axe, he chopped down a tree, he built up his empire. The same way he chopped us down, killed us off, right, to establish his kingdom and build up his high governments and his understanding in his schools, man, right? So, real fast, I won't pull too many precepts about trees, but let me get this quick precept. Let me go back to this real fast and read it. It says, be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pasture of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree and the vine do yield her strength. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in your God. So, who was being watered in the last days? The fig and the cedar, right? Now, I want to get this quick precept in the book of Psalms, right? Because it's going into how the Lord is going to come down and chiefly do that. Let's go to the book of Isaiah. So, like your Psalms. Let's go to Psalm chapter 65. It's Psalm chapter 65 and verse number 9. Thou visitest the earth and waterest it. Thou greatly enrichest it with the river of God. That's the latter rain. When you read precepts about a vineyard and Joel and it's languishing, it's like, damn, from the early rain, things are starting to dry up. It didn't dry all the way up to the time when we just left, which is the wilderness. Not that we left the wilderness, but the waters are back on the earth now. But you see slowly in the scriptures how water was on the earth is slowly drying up during the time of Ezekiel, during the time of Joel. And though that's physical, it's spiritual till you get to a wilderness. So like until you get to the 7 days of silence in Second Esdras, right? And Esdras lived during the Persian-Medo Empire. It's around 400 BC, which is 400 years, like we just read the prophecy, Second Esdras chapter 7 and verse 28 all the way down to the time of the New Testament, to the time of Yahushua, like it says, when he gets cut off and all men die. Now it's a wilderness when things are died, when trees are died. Now from the wilderness, you're inching towards what? The waters back on the earth. And that's the times we're living in right now, man. It's beautiful to see the waters on the earth. The Lord visiting the earth. You want so badly to see the Lord and see how the Lord waters and how the Lord gets down, but a lot of people are ignorant to what's right in front of you, man. You don't need an angel to come down with 19 feet wings. It says, thou visitest the earth and waters it, thou greatly enrichest it with the rivers of Yahweh, which is full of water. Thou preparest them corn when thou hast so provided for it. Now, is that physical? Everybody go out in their backyards and see the corn? No, that's the blessing and the harvest by the water that's on the earth, which is the increase. Thou waterest the ridges thereof abundantly. Thou settest the furrows thereof. Thou makest it soft with showers. Thou blessest the springing thereof. Thou crownest the year with thy goodness, and thy paths drop fatness. Meaning every pathway of to the Lord, to the law, to prophecy is going to be with water. They drop upon the pastures of the wilderness. I'm going to read that again because that's spiritual. They drop upon the pastures of the wilderness. So what are we at right now? The wilderness. What's dropping right now? Entering into what? You have a drop, like we just read in Sirach 24. You have a brook, you have a river, and then you have a sea. So it's dropping upon the wilderness, waking up all the pleasant plants that were in lower states, yielding them up and strengthening them up, like when you go to Revelation, the 11th chapter. That's why the Lord said, let me get this quick precept, and I'm going to come back to that. Let's go to the Revelation, the 11th chapter. The Lord said, they shall rejoice over our dead bodies, man. But we're going to wake back up. It's the book of Revelation, chapter 11. And I'm going to start at verse thing. We'll start at 6. We'll start at 7. This whole thing is fire. I'm going to start at 7. And when they shall have finished their testimony, talking about the two witnesses, the beast shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, right? That bottomless pit is Europe, which is a landmass. It send out of the bottomless pit, shall make war against them, right? Against the saints, and shall overcome them and kill them. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Because Sodom and Egypt, that's multifold why it's called Sodom and Egypt. First, because Sodom and Egypt is exactly what this land is. It's a land of whoredom. It's a land of philosophies, doctrines, and witchcraft. And it's a land that will forever be a wilderness. It says, where also our Lord was crucified, and they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. 3 days and a half, 40 and 2 months, times, and dividing the times, it's all the same spirit and prophecy. And shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth, check this out, shall rejoice over them and make merry, and shall send gifts one to another. And that's not talking about, this prophecy is twofold. It's talking about us dead in a physical estate, but it's more talking about us dead in a spiritual state. And us being dead spiritual is not having the knowledge of Yahushua. So when the earth is rejoicing over us, it's looking down on us in section 8. It's rejoicing that their buildings and their economy is increasing. It's rejoicing that their land is being established and it's taking fast, root in the society while we're on drugs, while we're in the liquor stores, while we're doing God knows what in the streets. This is because the two prophets tormented them that dwelled on the earth. And after 3 days and a half, so after 1,260 days, which is not a physical time frame as far as physical days, you count down like you're getting out of jail, it's a complete number. The spirit of life from God entered into them, and they stood upon their feet, and a great fear fell upon them which saw them. So Revelations 11 and 11 is so much prophecy going into one verse. That doesn't happen simultaneously. And after 3 days and a half, meaning after that set amount of time, before we wake back up completely, it says they stood upon their feet. Now, do you just wake up, knowledge, truth, Yahweh, and stand upon your feet? No. It says, and they stood upon their feet, meaning it has to take a complete time, not only for you, but for the rest of the nation to all wake up to be associated in this prophecy to stand upon their feet. You may be upon your feet, but the elect somewhere may be sitting down. The elect somewhere may have a damn blunt in their mouth, man, and didn't wake up yet. So as it's being watered and the knowledge is increasing in the latter days of the earth, men are getting watered and increasing as trees until we all stand upon our feet. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. So not necessarily that the next verse we're going to get beamed up right after that. Revelation goes in and out of time. So going back to 2nd Esdras 7 and 30, and the world should be turned into the old silence 7 days. And I'm going to get a precept on that because the Lord prophesied about that in Sirach chapter 10. It's Sirach 10. And so like, is this what I want? Wisdom of Solomon, that's what I want. Let me get it. This Wisdom of Solomon, right? Chapter 10. And I'm going to start at 13. It says, when the righteous was sold, she forsook him not, but delivered him from sin. She went down with him into the pit. And that's spiritual. That's talking about Joseph on a manifold level. But on a spiritual level, when the righteous was sold, we were the righteous as a nation. We were sold off in slavery. And she, as wisdom, forsook us not, but delivered him right from sin. She went down with him into the pit. Meaning it was always wisdom on the earth. Even with us in a lower state, having no understanding of prophecy. We were singing swing low, swing chariot, sweet chariot, coming forth to carry us home. And left him not in bonds. And that's spiritual because the bonds on a deeper level is Satan, it's sin, it's the mind. It's under the elements of the spiritual demon Satan in his land, and not by the freedom and liberty that Yahweh gives you. So when we're woken up mentally, you understand we're set free of these bonds. It says she brought him the scepter of the kingdom. And the scepter is used for leading and rulership and power against those that oppressed him. As for them, she had accused them. She shewed them to be liars, the nations, and gave them perpetual glory. Right? So let me go back to it. Like as the former judgment, so that no man remaineth. And after the 7 days, the world that yet awaketh not shall be raised up, and that shall die that is corrupted. So in 3 precepts is a span of so much prophecy. The Lord said, we're going to wake up and be raised up the same way in Revelations, the 11th chapter said. Now, when you go to the book of Psalms, chapter 80, let me get this quick precept. It's the book of Psalms, chapter 80. right? And I'm gonna start verse. It says, "Thou hast brought a vine out of Egypt. Thou hast cast off the heathen and planted it." So that vine is Israel out of Egypt. Thou preparest room before it. Thou didst cause it to take deep root and fill the land. So when we came out of Egypt, what happened? We went into the land of Canaan, man. The conquest of Joshua, the wars of Canaan, right? We took down Ali, Jericho. We destroyed those places and inherited the lands. And it was split up by Lot to the 12 tribes of Israel. So we took root in the land. The hills were covered with a shadow of it, and the boughs thereof were like the goodly cedars. Check that out. So everything was covered by the shadow, and the boughs thereof were like goodly cedars. So the boughs of the trees were like goodly cedars, and the cedars are one of the most strongest trees. The hills were covered with the shadow of it. So the hills were so strong it overshadowed and protected us from everything, is what the Lord is saying. She sent out her boughs into the sea. Check that out. And her branches unto the river. So our knowledge took root, and we were protected and guided. Why hast thou then broken down her hedges? So what happens in a garden, man? Let me show you what hedges are. The Lord said, "Why hast thou then broken down the hedges?" And hedges are used to protect. Let's go into it. Now, a lot of hedges aren't necessarily of grass, but you have some that are barbed wire fence. A lot of people don't play about their harvest, man. They put electric fences around their stuff, man. But essentially, it keeps a lot of critters and bigger animals away that eat off on the vineyard. And you want to protect your vineyard, man. Yahweh Shah put the hedge around us. That's why in the book of Job, Satan told the Lord, "Take the hedge from around him and see if he does not curse thee to thy face." Because that hedge was protection. And that hedge will fare well on a physical, level to block things out, right? So it says, Salaki, go. It's why has thou then broken down her hedges? Meaning, why has you broken down her protection and leadership? So that all they which pass by the way do pluck her. And it's plucker meaning because we're grapes. We get plucked at. Every single time TD Jakes come on, the nations, they give all these type of poisons and antidotes and serums and jabs and all of this different medicines. You're plucking a grape off the vineyard. And we got plucked so much. It's but 7 damn grapes left, man, out of a whole vintage. And let me get this quick precept and Song of Solomon. Salaki, yeah, Song of Solomon. Right, the second chapter. Get this quick precept. This Song of Solomon, chapter 2, in verse 13. It says, "The fig tree put forth her green figs, and the vines with her tender grapes give a good smell. Arise, my love, my fair one, come away. My dove, oh my dove, that are in the cleft of the rock." Salakia. I just read it from here. It says, "Oh my dove, that are in the cleft of the rock, in the secret place of the stairs." So what are we prophesied to be when the Lord comes back or when the Lord is on his way? In the cleft of the rocks. What are we doing in the clefts of the rocks? Isn't a rock in a mountain, in a dry place, a place with no life and no greenery, no type of seeds and herbs and grass and flowers? And the Lord said that we're in the cleft of the rock because a lot of our people are embracing the rock for want of shelter because it's cold outside, because they want a covering, they want protection, they want some type of sense of covering in the winter. So we embrace the cleft of the rock. And we embrace his sorcery, his religion, his wisdom on the left hand side, and his understanding in the secret places of the stairs. Because we're here so deep under the rock, we're in secret places. It says, let me see thy countenance, meaning come out of America. Come out of this place. Let me hear thy voice, for sweet is thy voice and thy countenance is comely. Because we're the woman of the Most High. We're the comely, delicate woman. This is the point why I pulled this. Salakia. This part right here. Take us the little foxes. Salakia. Take us the foxes and little foxes that spoil the vines. What do you mean take the foxes? Who are the foxes? The foxes are the nations. Did not the Lord call, let me get this quick precept, man. And the Lord called Herod a fox, man. Herod Antipas. He called him a fox, meaning a so-called white man. So when we're getting plucked, let me get that real fast. Let me get the book of Luke, chapter 13. So who's plucking us and raping us and destroying us and killing us and murdering us and making it like a game or a sport, man? Let's go to the book of Luke, chapter 13, and let's start at verse 31. It says, the same day that came certain of Pharisees, saying unto him, get thee out and depart thence, for Herod will kill thee. So you have many Herods. You have Herod the Great, Herod, Philip's wife. You had Herod Archelaus, which is Herod the Great's son. You had Herod Antipas. You had Herod Agrippa the First. You had Herod Agrippa the Second. So you had a Herodian dynasty. Now this Herod is Herod Antipas. Now Herod Antipas, hey, the Lord don't give a damn about Herod, man. Hey, we don't give a damn about Herod. It says, and he said unto them, go ye tell that fox. Why is he associated to be called a fox? What do foxes do? Oh, look at the little cute fox running across the road. Hey, fox will kill you, man. Foxes eat anything. They sneaky. They sly. I'm going to say, what do foxes eat? Rabbits, rodents, birds, frogs, earthworms. This thing eat anything. Foxes come out at night primarily to hunt for food. And that's spiritual. Because a lot of these animals, they come out at night, man, which is their spiritual protection on the left-hand side from the sun, which is the light. The Lord said, this is the condemnation. That light is coming to the world. And men love darkness rather than light because their deeds were evil. Man. It says, and their most common prey are field voles, feeble pigeons, and small birds. I'm going to read that again. Feeble pigeons and small birds. So if we're the dove, foxes hunt down doves, man. I mean, on an agricultural level, on a spiritual level, on a physical level, everything links up to Yahusha. Everything goes back to Yahusha. From fruit to corn, is wisdom. Everything is carnal has a spiritual aspect to it. So when the Lord, let me finish that in Luke real fast. Right? So like you bear with me. It says, I'm gonna start at 32. And he said unto them, go ye tell that fox, behold, I cast out devils, and I do curse today, tomorrow, and that third day I should be perfected. So those foxes, they eat up the vines and they spoil the grapes. So when you go back to Psalms 80, these animals are plucking us. Why? Because the hedge is gone in our protection. So it's time to build up the nation again, man. It's time to get the hedge back, the rain back. It's time to get the fruit grown. It's time to flourish and get these things more abundant like they were in the ancient world. It says the boar out of the wood doeth waste it. Now the boar is talking about the spiritual demon Satan on a deeper level. But the boar is also the so-called white man because he's an unclean animal. And what do boars do? They don't care. You got the farm animal, the pig, you got the wild hog, but then you have the boar, which is like in the Amazon area, like the forest, where essentially more green grass and more fruits and vegetables and things are grown. So that's his habitation to run through it and trample it down. And the wild beasts of the field do devour him. So the boar is the so-called white man. He's the chief beast. But then the other wild beasts are helping him devour the vineyard. It says, return. I'm going to read that again. Return. In the law on a physical level, going off and committing sin, windows are shut, no rain. Spiritual level, don't return, no rain, no water. During the time of Joel, you go off, no corn, no wine, no rain. In the time of Amos, the 4th chapter, famine. 2 Kings, right? All of these precepts and all of these chapters, when you go off, there's no rain. So what essentially happens when 144,000 men are on fire? What essentially happens when the prophets are on the four corners of the earth? What is the Lord doing with the rain? What's happening? It's the latter rain. Prophecies increasing. Knowledge is growing. Men are getting deeper in the scriptures to the point where now it's about time to seal up that garden. So like it seal up that water, man, that you read about, which is with hiding itself. Going back to Song of Solomon, the 4th chapter. Because you may think, well, I don't know, is prophecy on earth yet? Is things happening? Until everything is soaked up. What you gonna do when you wake up and the internet is gone? It's just gone. Not a heart attack when Google stopped and Facebook and Instagram stopped, but it's gone. It's off the grid. The phone is gone. A lot of people want to die, man. I can't call my woman. I can't call my job. Like, what do I do? How do I call the camp? I can't get in contact with the elder. When these things are off the grid, what are you going to do in that day, man? This Song of Solomon 4 and 15. A fountain of gardens, a well of living waters, and streams from Lebanon. So that's what's going on right now, man. And these things are happening. But what's going to essentially happen after the Lord has finished watering the earth? It says this: a garden enclosed, my sister, my spouse, a spring shut up, a fountain sealed. So the Lord is going to seal off this fountain that's yielding forth abundance to all of the plants, the orchards, the pomegranates, the fruits, the conifers, the spinyards, all of the pleasant myrrh, the calamus, the cinnamon, the frankincense, the aloes, the chief spices, and all of these different things that are symbolic for different men and their different talents and different gifts in the nation that's blowing out, getting men to come into it, whether they be prophets, elders, nobles, teachers, pastors, right? Diversity of gifts blowing out through the four corners, bringing the elect into it. The Lord's going to seal that off, man. It says, awake, O north wind, because the north wind blows, because out of the north wind comes the wind and it blows to the south. Come, thou south, blow upon my garden, that the spices thereof may flow out. Let my beloved come into his garden and eat his pleasant fruit. So it's going to come a time where you don't want to overwater your harvest. What would I look like having fruit or tomatoes or whatever the case may be, and I'm growing it, or an apple tree, and I overwater it? It's already came to perfection, and I just keep watering and keep watering. That would make no sense. When 144,000 men are sealed, nobody else is going to be able to get that water, because it's not going to be on the earth as it is, because the Spirit of the Lord had reached whom he wanted it to reach. And at that point, it's going to be shut off. That's in the book of Isaiah chapter 55. Let's go to it. It's the book of Isaiah chapter 55. All right, it's Isaiah chapter 55 in verse 10. For as cometh down, no falleth from heaven, return not thither, but watereth the earth, and maketh it bring forth the bud, and it may give seed to the sower and bread to the eater. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. So the words of the Lord are likened unto water. So when the Lord speaks, it's like the abundance of rain, right? And let me prove that real fast with another quick precept. I know, Buzzer, stop pulling these precepts, man. Finish the damn precept, right? Let me go to the book real fast, right? And I wanted to finish this prophecy, but I wanted to get something through the spirit out of the Apocrypha. Let's go to the book of Sirach. Right, it's the book of Sirach, chapter 18, right? And we're going to start at verse 29. And it reads, it says, they that were of understanding in sayings also became wise themselves and poured forth exquisite parables. So what's parables likened unto? Being poured forth. Do you literally take a damn pitcher and you pour up a parable? What do you do when you say a parable? Didn't Samson say a parable about the honey, right? And the bee and the eater, and he gave a parable to them. They said, what's that going into? And I'm confounded. Within 3 days, I'm still confounded. Because when you speak, you drop forth waters because it's being poured forth. So how much more the Most High? So as the Most High speaks, it's the abundance of water being issued out. So going back to it, it says, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth as the water. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. Meaning the Lord may speak something, it may go down to the spirit of a prophet, and that prophet would not stop shaking their hand till it reached that spirit and that soul to seal that man or that woman. It says, it shall prosper in the thing whether I send it. For ye shall go. So I can rush right there. Matter of fact, I want to read on. It says, for ye shall go out with joy and be led forth with peace. And the mountains and hills shall bring forth before you into singing, and all the trees of the field shall clap their hands. And that's talking about all of the men in the nation after being watered. It says, instead of the thorn shall come up the fig tree. The thorns are the wicked men of Israel. They're the bribers and liars and manipulators. They're the thorns because they're sown amongst the wheat, man. Right? They're sown amongst the elect. But it's going to come up a fig tree because the fig trees are the elect that are innocent. It says, and instead of bribery shall come up the myrtle tree, and it shall be to the Lord for a name, and it's like for an everlasting sign, it shall not be cut off. And that myrtle tree, like I said, all these different trees have different spirits. You can read about that myrtle tree in Zechariah, the first chapter, how we became a myrtle tree, right? But let's go back to it. It's the book of Psalms, right? Chapter 80 and verse 14. Return, we beseech thee, O Yahweh of hosts. Look down from heaven and behold and visit this vine and the vineyard which thy right hand has planted, which the branch, and that thou mayest strong with thyself. It is burnt with fire, it is cut down, they perish at the rebuke at thy countenance. Check that out. So going back to the book of Second Esdras, right, chapter 7, verse 32, it says, and the earth shall restore those that are asleep in her. And that's spiritual too. It's talking about the resurrection, and it's talking about men that are asleep mentally. They don't know what's going on. And show the dust those that dwell in silence. And the secret places, just like the stairs in Song of Solomon, the second chapter, those are the secret places. Shall deliver those souls that were committed unto them, whether that be spiritually or physically, like the resurrection in John, the fifth chapter. That's spiritual and it's physical, right? Now, let me get this quick precept. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, chapter 35. It's Isaiah chapter 35 and verse 1. a wilderness and a solitary place shall be glad for them. Why is the wilderness going to be glad for us, man? Why is this barren land going to be glad for? Because this is where we take root. This is where we nourish up. And the desert shall rejoice and blossom as the rose. It shall blossom abundantly and rejoice even with joy and singing. The glory of Lebanon shall be given into it, the excellency of Carmel and Sheraphim, and they shall see the glory of the Lord and the excellency of our God. Strengthen ye the weak hands, because we're getting nourished in this land. If somebody's weak and they got feeble knees and they're in a desert place, that water and that knowledge is going to heal them. Because a lot of people, man, they think that life is over. They're going to die. They're going to die 80 years old, working a 12-hour shift with kids that their mothers that took away from them, grandkids can't see them, with a half-broken car that barely works, or catching a bus, and this is just life. No, the Lord said he's going to strengthen up the weak hands. He's going to let you know there's a kingdom. That prophecy is going to be given to the men that cry out for it, and wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that their crowns and set thrones of judgment for men, and confirm the feeble knees. Because we're feeble right now, man, as a nation. Say to them that are full, fearful hearted, be strong. Because this is where we're nourishing up at, man. This is where you tell them men to be strong. Why? Because you're going to have to be an army. You're going to have to set yourself and get strengthened up on a physical and spiritual level. Fear not, behold, your God will come. So we're preaching hope. We're preaching hope, and we're preaching to men that this thing isn't for naught, man. If you can hold on long enough, you may see salvation. And let me get that in the book of Sirach, man. Second Esdras, the 6th chapter, verse 25 all the way down. Because if you don't hold on and you faint, you're going to give up your crown. It's the book of Second Esdras, right? Chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 25. And it reads, it says, whosoever remaineth from all these that I have told thee. I mean, you got to remain in this thing, man. You have to remain. You cannot faint. You cannot be given to doctrines. You can't be given the spirit to this life and surfeiting. And you want to be preserved physically to be able to endure the famine, the pestilence, and World War III. Shall escape and see my salvation and the end of your world. And the men that are received shall see it, who have not tasted death from their birth, and the heart of the inhabitants shall be changed into another meaning. So you're going to be changed into a whole different meaning, a different spirit, different understanding, when you're strengthened up and you remain to be able to see the salvation of Yahushua. That makes you a real strong person, man, to be honest, man. You got something called mental stability. For somebody to wake up every morning, go to work 5 o'clock in the morning, pull a double shift, go home, be dad of the year, still read the scriptures, and still, care and be there for your wife and get on councils and calls. I mean, that's hard, man. It says, the eyes of the blind should be open and the ears of the deaf should be unstopped. Because we're deaf and we're eyes are blind as a nation of people. That's why it's prophesied that the water, which is Yahweh Shem Yahushai, which was Yahushai in that time of the Gospels, he healed those men. And he healing us now. And the lame man shall leap as an harp, and the tongue of the dumb shall sing. For in the wilderness shall waters break out, and streams in the desert. And the parched ground shall become a pool, and the thirsty land springs of water, and the habitation of dragons. Who's the habitation of dragons? Who is the dragon? Esau. So in the habitation of dragons is going to be a rush of waters in the last days, which is the latter rain. So you want to ask yourself, well, damn, man, why was Noah so mighty? Why was Ezekiel so mighty? Why was Daniel so mighty? Look at how strong they were. Hey, brother, that water that they had in that time is coming on the earth, man. All praises to the Most High. The abundance of revelations, that men are going to receive and know of the prophecies and breakdowns are going to be the same spirit of what was rained down before, because the Lord requires that which is past. You're not just going to have a mighty elders and mighty fathers, and then you just go down like this, just all the way down to the prophet in the last days. All he knows is destruction of Esau. He doesn't know anything else, right? It says the habitation of dragons, where each lay shall be grass with the reeds and rushes. So we're going to continue to grow as a nation, bring forth during and then the place of the habitation of dragons, which is the wilderness, where grass and water and pools and rivers and knowledge is going to continue to increase and abound, right? But, right, let me get this closing precept through the Spirit. Let's go to the book of Revelation, chapter 3, and verse number 2. This is the book of Revelation, chapter 3, and verse number 2, right? It says, be watchful and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. So in this land, we're ready to die off. It's always something trying to pull you out the truth, whether it be your family, and not that they're trying to physically tell you to stop reading, but don't let any spirit pull you away from the time that you do have to spend with the Lord. Don't let your mind give you over to carnal thoughts and plagues and demons, man. Fight through the Spirit and strengthen the things which remain that are ready to die. For I have not found thy works perfect before Yahweh. Remember therefore how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, meaning if you're not watching, the Lord's going to visit you like a thief, man. He's going to blow your candlestick out, and I will come as a thief, and thou shalt not know what hour I will come upon thee. So you're not going to know what hour the Lord is going to visit you. He's going to come like blow your candlestick. You need to pray on and cry out for Lord's mercy in the last days. But with that, also Yahweh, by like Yahushua, Lord willing, was edifying. Shalom.